Do you wake up and your back is super stiff and you feel like you're already locked up for movement for the rest of the day? This is where a lot of people live, and they think that the back is actually the problem. But in reality, if we open up your hips, you're gonna feel much better and be able to move throughout the day so much better. In my life, I injured my back after I had snowboarded a ton and then I was squatting and I had a little tweak. Then when I woke up the next morning, my back, lower back, super stiff. And I was like, oh, I gotta put socks on, like reaching down. People have had this experience and they continue to have it because they try to address the lower back instead of the hips. In this video, we'll go through the movements that will open up your hips so you can feel better throughout your life, but also just be more confident in your movement and not have to deal with the achy pain that comes with a stiff lower back. So as you wake up from bed, your back and your hips haven't moved for a while. So it's good to get them moving. And this is the first step to getting that back from being stiff to not so stiff and nice and strong. If we move over here, you're on the edge of your bed and we're gonna open up the glutes first. This movement, you're holding it right here. This might be a little bit too advanced. So what you can do is pull a pillow or fold a pillow to make it even bigger. And you just put that under your knee. And that's gonna make this movement easier. You're holding this position, feeling the weight in the back glute, and then you start moving forward. As you do this, it's gonna feel nice and good. I like to do this before I go to bed, but also when I wake up in the morning. This next stretch is gonna work the groin. So the two sides of the hip, from the glute to the groin, to the biggest problem areas. This is the easiest one I found to do in bed, and it looks a little weird, but you're gonna be wide, and then you're just sinking your hips down. This is the groin frog pose, and you're holding this position. I like to kind of shift one way and then shift the other way, feeling the stretch in the groin there. This one, I typically just do before I go to bed because I don't feel like I need it in the morning. All of these you're doing very lightly, and I'm not gonna give you a rep range because I just want you to start doing it. A little bit will make a big difference. The last one is if you read, write, or do something at night that is just kind of relaxing, do it sitting up, crisscross applesauce. So if I have my left leg on top one night, do it with the right leg on top the other night, and just sit and get your stuff done. It's gonna be more comfortable for you when you wake up because your hips kind of got a very passive stretch for some time. And this is compared to where you're laying back like this, or you're kind of laying down sideways. Those things aren't bad, but being able to do passive stretch that gets your hips kind of in an uncomfortable position, maybe for you if you haven't done it in a while, will be really big for your progress in your hips, and that makes the lower back feel great. So now on to step 2, which is doing the gym mobility. When you're working your mobility in the bed, it's gonna be helpful, but we still need to build strength. If the hips are weak or the lower back is weak, there's still gonna be problems. And even if you get past the pain, it's more and more likely that you cause a re-injury if you haven't built the strength. So the 2 exercises that I've found that help build the strength in the hips the best are the ATG split squat and the seated good morning. So for the split squat, you're gonna start with that front foot raised, other leg is back. Why this works so well is you're working the hips front to back. This front hip is working the glute to push you back up and the quad. You're also working the back leg with the groin here, giving a stretch. This glute is activating, pulling this back leg into extension, and then you're pushing back through the range. As you get stronger at this, you go all the way down to the ground, pushing forward and then feeling extra stretch and then lifting back up, even adding weight. You should go check out my video on everything about the ATG split squat because it's a wonderful exercise. The other part of that is the seated good morning. Working side to side, it's gonna help open up the groin, the other stretch that we talked about earlier, and activate the glutes. So we're pulling weight in between and then keeping our back in extension up and then coming back down. Some few things that really important about this exercise is 1, keeping the knees from caving in. Oftentimes the knees will want to cave in. To do this, we flex the glutes to keep the knees in a straight line. You also want the heel to be in front of the knee. So if there's a straight line going down, the heel is in front of that line. With these 2 exercises, even if you just do them once to twice a week, You're gonna feel great hip gains that are gonna open up your lower back. Then as you get stronger, you're gonna get more resilient and less injury prone. Very important for the longevity of your hips and your lower back. And the last section for fixing these tight hips that cause lower back issues is working on your daily habits. So if you sit a lot, I understand you maybe drive, you maybe work in an office. I drive a lot, so I end up having to sit a lot. But there's a few things that you can do. The first is try to avoid the sitting. So if you can, get a standing desk, Bosu ball, or some sort of way that makes the sitting not in a normal traditional chair where you're locked in with your hips straight. That's the first step. If you can, move your legs around. If you start sitting like this in a chair for a little while and then go like this, that's gonna be better than if you're just locked in straight. You can sit on the ground, that's gonna be the best for you. If you don't have any chairs in your house, that's probably the best thing for you. But since that's not the reality for most, just find a comfortable spot on the family room floor, put your computer on the couch if you can, and do some work that way. Different ways you can sit while you're on the ground are with 90-90 position. So you can do work like this, and computer's right here, you're just doing work. It's very comfortable. The other way, you can do some foot exercises. You can be here working that way. All of these things are gonna keep opening up your hips. So if you do need to sit, here's what you can do. Take small breaks, and I'm saying 1 minute to 30 seconds. Take these breaks with some movement. You can do a frog sit, and you just sit like this. When I started, I couldn't just sit like this, so I had to hold on to something to make sure I could stay upright and not fall on my bum. As you get stronger, as you get better dorsiflexion in your ankles, you work the whole body. As one, you're gonna start sitting pretty comfortably like this, and if you can get up to a minute, it's gonna be really good for your hips. The other one is I like to do some Cossack squats when I have some breaks. And these are just assisted typically because I'm not warmed up, and I'm just kind of moving to one side and then to the other side. I let my heels come up. I'm not being strict. Eventually you want to get the heels to stay a little bit more down. It is a little bit difficult. You're going there, you're going here. With that, it'll feel good on the hips, and you're just kind of opening it up. The last one is going into an outer glute / pigeon stretch where you're here and you just open up the glute this way. So how this looks, the best way to teach this is your knees are here, and then you're just shifting the hips to that outside. Eventually what this builds into is kind of like a pigeon where you're sitting down. But this can be a really good like 10-second to 30-second stretch just to get some length into the glutes because your hips have been so locked up for so long. So while I'm sitting here, I hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you want more tips on hips and low back so you can get strong, resilient, and pain-free. And also drop a comment on where you found yourself to be the most stiff, because maybe I make a video especially for you.